Hello, Steve Nugent from Frontier Ag and Turf, and today we're going to go through the setup of a 2630 inside a 9770 combine and the steps that you need to do to make sure the screen is set up properly to document your harvest. Now the first thing we need for documentation is to go into our resources screen, and we need to tell the screen where we are and what we're doing. So we need a client, farm, field, and task. You'll notice the farm and field are grayed out until we pick a client. So I can do a new client. We can say we're at the deer client. We need to give the farm name. We can call it JD1. And for a field, give it any name we would like. Call it Now that we have our client, farm, and field set, we need to set our task. Right now, documentation is turned off. Well, we want to set that to harvest. Again, we make sure our crop season is set to the proper year so that our yield maps correspond properly. Operator, you can leave blank, or you can fill in with one of your hired men's name if you'd like, or your own. The next step we need to fill in is our equipment. Now you'll notice the word combine is grayed out because it knows we're in a combine, but it's not sure which one we're in. We're going to tell it. Today we happen to be in a 9770. And we can put the same name in for both the model type and machine name. The point of having that separated that way is if you had multiple 9070 series machines or multiple 9770s, you could give them different names. Inside here we need to press change offsets. Again, we want to make sure that our front axle is set for our fixed axle. On a regular row crop tractor, that'll be set to rear axle. Our first measurement is lateral distance from center line of machine to GPS receiver. We leave that at 0. Generally that is a number we use if we have to manipulate the auto track. For the most part though, we leave that at 0. Our second measurement is inline distance from non-steering axle to GPS receiver. Again, on this machine it's from the front axle to the receiver. We've measured that out and that is 75 inches. So we simply touch there and put in 75. You'll notice again all these are in inch increments. Our measurement C is inline distance from the non-steering axle to header connection point. So, generally speaking, on a combine, that's only about 8 to 10 extra inches farther than this measurement here. So we'll put in 85. And then our final measurement is the vertical distance off the ground for the GPS receiver. And on this machine, we're 147 inches above the ground. We press accept, and now we have all of our measurements in there for the combine. On this screen, our recording source is set to auto. If that does not say auto and is not grayed out, then we're having a problem because the screen isn't recognizing the combine. In a combine setting, it's only going to be recording when it's harvesting grain, so it knows when to turn the recording on and off all by itself. The next thing we need to do is set our head. It says corn head, and that is grayed out. That is because there is some intelligence built into these systems, and it knows that we've plugged our corn head in. Today we have a 606C on here, so we'll give it that model and name. And again, for the name, if you really wanted to, you could call it anything you wanted. It's just so you can determine your different names of your different heads. We'll go in here to set our change offsets. Now this is a little different. For A is the inline distance from connection point to the rear of the implement. Now in a regular pull type implement setting, that measurement can be quite great. However, in a combine, our connection point and the rear of the implement are basically the same point. I always like to put in a 0.1 here just so that there's some form of a measurement getting put in. And you'll notice all these measurements are in feet, except for C. For B is the inline distance from the front to the rear of the implement. A good rule of thumb on a corn head is around 5 feet. You can measure that out on your own, and there's different points you could measure to, but we like to go with 5 feet there. C is the lateral distance from connection point to the control point. Now again, much like our A measurement on the combine, for lateral distances we leave them at 0 unless we need to account for some imperfections in our performance. And then D is the inline distance from the connection point to the control point of the implement. Again, on a planter or a pull type implement, that would be the lift assist wheels. Since we have no wheels on a head, I generally like to just split the difference of our B measurement and put in 2.5. So now our combine head has measurements put in. Next thing we want to do is make sure our widths are set properly. Now this one right away we can tell that we don't have a 12-row head on here, we have a 6-row. So we need to go in here and change this to 6 rows. And we see that we have something grayed out here. That is because down on the command center there is some communication back and forth. So on the command center, we want to go to the 3rd screen on the combine setup, scroll down, change the number of rows of the head that you have on right there. And now if we look back up here, we'll see that that grayed out 12 changed to a 6 for us. Make sure our inches are correct, we press accept. The last thing on this screen we want to do is put a check mark in the overlap control box. What overlap control simply does is it's kind of swath control in reverse. If you've already picked 4 rows and you're only picking 2 rows right now to finish up a field, based on your GPS position, the combine will know that, and it won't record the full 6 rows worth of information. It will only record the 2 rows, keeping your average yield accurate throughout the field. As you can see here, we have it set in 2-row sections. That's how all of our corn heads are going to be set. And if you wanted to manually shut off a section of recording rows, you can do that manually just like that, and then turn them back on. But for the most part, if you leave that checked, it will take care of it for you all by itself. Now that we have our resources and our equipment set, we can go to documentation. Biggest key on this screen is we only want to see harvest and new. If I see harvest and a few other things up here, our screen is not going to be recording our yield data. And basically it's because we're trying to tell it we're doing multiple things here at once, which we're really not. So we always want to go into these other things if they're there and remove them. We only want harvest up here. Now in harvest, we want to change harvest settings. We're going to pick our crop type, pick a brand, and pick a variety. Now, if we've done our job correctly in Apex and have downloaded the planning maps properly, we're going to get a message here that says variety locator OK for this field, and we can put a check mark in that box. Doing that, if we have multiple varieties in that field, it will automatically change the variety so it knows that we are harvesting a different variety than we were before. This can come in very handy later when we are trying to analyze different varieties and the yields that they produced. So make sure that's checked if we are using variety locator. Now that we have our crop, brand, and variety set, we should be all set to go. And how you can tell if everything's working right is if we go to totals and we see a bunch of zeros there like it's ready to start. If I go in here and turn off documentation and I try to go to totals, it's going to tell me that I don't have something set up right. Go back up here to resources, set our task back to harvest. And if I see zeros when I'm starting on a field there, then I know I've got everything set right. And on the left you can see we're on client, farm, field, task, crop season. If that doesn't look right, we have something set wrong.
Thank you for viewing our Harvest Setup 1.1 video. For more harvest setup tips, please view our yield mapping and measurement input videos. We thank you again for your business as we strive to be your one-stop shop for quality John Deere equipment, sales, parts, and service. If you need additional assistance, please contact your local ag salesperson or our New Richmond store at 715-246-6565. We can also be reached online at www.frontieragturf.com. Thanks again, and we hope you have a great day.